I'm the Craft Maiden, and ever since last year's Make It Central I have wanted to try out these cool artwork resins, and when I visit this year I saw them again, so after speaking to Eli Chem Resins I got some free stuff to try out, and that's what I will do in this video and share my thoughts about it. The products I'm using in this video is called Mastercast 1:1 Clear Artwork and Casting Resin, Resi-Tint Max in Ultramarine and Titanium White, and Resi-Metal in Aluminium Oxide. And as always, I list all the tools and materials I use in my videos in the description box down below. When working with resins, you should always remember to wear gloves and eye protection, and as well sit in a well-ventilated area. When mixing this resin, you can do it in two ways. You can do it by weight or you can do it by volume, as I am doing right here. I'm using 100 parts of resin with 100 parts of hardener, so basically everything I had. The resin is supposed to be odorless, but I still think the hardener part had a bit of a stronger smell than the resin part, but after stirring it all together it kind of went away. Either that or I got used to it. And a really big plus is that it's not toxic, so I can work with it without using a respirator. Then I stirred the two parts together with a wooden spatula for like 4 minutes. I didn't really care that I added a lot of air bubbles, as this resin is supposed to be really good at releasing them. Then I portioned it out into 4 new cups, a little bit in the first one and a little bit more in the other 3. Putting aside the smallest one and then coloring the other 3. The Resi-Metal needed to be added by weight, so I weighted an empty paper cup and removed the weight of it on the scale, and then added the resin cup, and there I have the resin weight. Then I tried to add about 5% of that in Resi-Metal, but since I overstepped a bit, I had to add a bit more of the clear resin. A nice thing with the Resi-Tint Max is that you don't need to add it by weight, and a dollop of the pigment is enough to give a really nice opaque color. Before I started to mix all the resins, I prepared the canvas board by adding a piece of wood underneath and securing it with double-sided tape so it would be raised above the desk. To make the pour a lot smoother, I used the clear resin as a base layer, and after heating it a bit with a heat gun, I quickly popped all the rest of the bubbles, and as well making the resin a bit more fluid. I don't really know why that is, but chemistry is cool sometimes. Before the base layer had cooled down too much, I added the colored resins on top of it. When I did some research on how to do this, I found that dragging the colors together a bit gives a really cool effect, and thanks to the Resi-Tint Max I got some really nice cells starting to form when I used some heat over it. After adding the Resi-Metal, I realized a little goes a really long way, and I got a bit carried away when adding the silver, so I ended up adding more of the blue and white resin to just balance it out a bit. And I also wanted to try it on a different material, so I had some plexiglass or acrylic plastic or whatever you call it, and repeated all the steps on them as well. Then I added a bit of silver into the blue resin just to see what would happen, and I really liked the result. Because I still had some resins left, I wanted to try to cast something as well, but since the resin had already started to cure, I couldn't get rid of all the bubbles, so until next time I will work a bit faster. And if you are interested to know how I made my molds, you can always check my pumpkin video, you have the link in the info card and in the description box. Or if you want me to show you how I made these two, let me know in the comments down below. After about 5 hours, I removed the resin from the molds, partly because I'm really impatient when stuff is drying or curing, and partly because I wasn't sure it would be able to come out of the mold without breaking if it wasn't bendy enough. So that's why I took it out a bit too early. Here you can actually see some of the air bubbles. I don't really mind, but next time I will do better. And while the resin was still soft, I tried removing all the excess with a scissor and a scalpel, and it was a success. And here we have the finished canvas. It looks really cool. I mean, look at this. You can actually see the reflection in it. Because of the really cheap and curved canvas, I ended up with exposed edges. I even tried to paint over it, but it didn't look good, so therefore I decided to make a frame of plastic card and cover it. And since I was on a roll, I decided to make this canvas into a clock. At first I didn't really know if this would work, but I needed to drill a hole in the canvas, so I started with a smaller drill bit so I could pre-drill the hole. Then I added a piece of masking tape to the surface to avoid any scratches. So the clock I was going to use was way too short. I realized the resin is a bit thicker in the middle because everything has bunched up there. So I had to go and buy me another clock and make the hole even bigger. I glued on 4 wooden spaces to the back, I added screws to the top too and tied a nylon thread between them to have something to hang it on. Here is the finished frame I made earlier, and I used double-sided tape to secure it in place. For these two, I first had a plan to glue on the casted Triforce and Deathly Hollow symbol, but as I wasn't happy with them, I used the cardboard originals I made the molds of instead. And to protect the surface from any super glue, I covered it in masking tape. Then I added small frame hangers to the back of them with hot glue. This was really fun to try out, and I'm surprised how easy it was to use for a resin beginner like me, and as it cures really fast and it isn't toxic, I can only say that maybe it isn't the cheapest resin out there, but it's definitely worth the price for how it performed, and I will definitely use it again. And a big thanks to Eli Chem Resins for giving me this chance to test out their stuff. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you are still watching, why not leave a clock emoji with the time you are watching this video in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button to get notified whenever I upload. So thank you very much for watching, I hope to see you next time, bye!